Good afternoon. It's so good to see y'all. Are you having a good time? Yes. I have heard this was amazing, and I wish I could have been with you, but I'm here now and elated to be in the company of this remarkable woman. We have become fast friends, and I told her she's got to come back to Dallas so we can hang out some more. We will tonight. But anyway, I want to introduce, I don't know if you were able to see her bio, but I think it's important to set the tone for this conversation and the remarkable woman that I'll be talking to. Cheryl Dorsey is the president of Echoing Green, a global nonprofit that supports emerging social entrepreneurs and invests deeply in their ideas and leadership. She became the first Echoing Green Fellow to head the Social Venture Fund in 2002. Prior to leading this social impact organization, she was a social entrepreneur herself and received an Echoing Green Fellowship in 1992 to help launch the Family Van, a community-based mobile health unit in Boston. She is an accomplished leader and entrepreneur and has served in 2 presidential administrations as a White House Fellow, Special Assistant to the U.S. Secretary of Labor, and it goes on and on and on. She serves on several boards, including the Bridgespan Group, Skoll Foundation, Northeast Bank, and previously the Harvard Board of Overseers. She has a medical degree from Harvard Medical School, a master's in public policy from Harvard Kennedy School, and a bachelor's degree in history and science, magna cum laude, with the highest honors from Harvard Radcliffe colleges. Do you see why I wanted to read her bio? It's just as bad. She is a frequent speaker on racial justice and equity and philanthropy. She has advocated for equitable funding for leaders of color on panels organized by the Stanford Social Innovation Review, the World Economic Forum, and more. She co-authored in 2020 a research report in partnership with the Bridgespan Group, Racial Equity and Philanthropy, Disparities in Funding for Leaders of Color Leave Impact on the Table. In addition to the numerous awards, and I won't read all of those because we will be here until Tuesday. But I do want to highlight this, that in 2019, Cheryl was named a Schwab Foundation Social Innovation Thought Leader. So please welcome Cheryl Dorsey to the stage. So I want to start off with, this conversation is about funding the revolution. And I want to start off with, what was your journey into being the change agent that you are? How did you get to Echoing Green?
Well, first I want to say, is this on? Uh-oh. How do I do that? This way. Yeah. Okay, now it's on. First I want to say I'm so moved by this day and this experience. Like I said, I've never been to Dallas before. I've been in your airport, but it's to get off one plane and get on another one. And I don't know if the rest of Dallas is like this, but sort of the magic and the love and the community that I've experienced today is, it's just extraordinary. I've been in contact with my colleagues all day via text, sending pictures, saying we've got to post. And I know I'm not doing justice what Xavier and Taylor and the entire team and you, Dr. Booker Drew, as the board co-chair, and everyone in this room has done to create a sense of hope and possibility and inspiration. I want to thank you all for giving me such inspiration and hope, and I really am I'm choked up about it. Again, these are some tough times, and I live in the belly of the beast in Washington, D.C., and I have to go back to that nonsense in a couple days. But to be here with you all, we are going to be okay, and in part, it's because of your work, your truth, your commitment, and I have to say I'm just blown away, so I just want to thank you for setting the stage for this really important day, and it's going to be all right. It's going to be all right. So thank you for that. So, it's an easy question, isn't it, Dr. Booker Drew? A black woman in America of a particular age, this is the journey. This is how we start. I'm the daughter of 2 African-American, no longer with us, unfortunately, school teachers. My dad was the first one in his family to go to college. My mom was the second one in her family, and used education and the educational system, teachers like Xavier and Taylor, to build the American dream and to help their only child set out on a path of what was possible. But you can't sort of be alive and cogent and cognizant without understanding the systems that are pressing down on you at all times. Everything from, I mean, I'm not the brightest bulb, but I do okay. I work hard. I'm really committed. And, when my guidance counselor suggested that I not apply to Harvard or to Hopkins or to Yale because she didn't think I was going to make it, my mother, thank God, who was a guidance counselor, said, "You will not talk to that woman again. We got this." And sort of filing that away. And again, you all are so many young people in this audience, but I remember watching Henry Hampton's seminal documentary, Eyes on the Prize, and there was this scene when just a notoriously segregationist police sheriff, Lori Pritchard in Albany, Georgia, who had turned the hoses and the dogs on a group of freedom fighters, mostly black young folks, and turns to the camera with a sense of glee and said, "I don't mind because they don't matter." And I said, "Oh, wasn't that so precise?" And it just summed up in a word what folks of color, what those of us who are considered other, what it means to sort of navigate the American experience. And I think it's been sort of the quest of my life to try to figure out why. I mean, I look out at this diverse audience and I see possibility, I see brilliance, I see genius, and how do we sideline the majority of talent in this community, in this country, in this world? It makes no sense to me. And I think I'm haunted by it, Dr. Booker Drew. And it's sort of been my quest to figure out what are the tools and the approaches to chip away with that, because we're better together. I mean, the challenges ahead of us, we need all of us in the boat together, rowing in the same direction. And I just don't see why it's so difficult. So again, I think it's the thing that haunts me, or as someone said, sort of my beautiful obsession, I guess.
I told you this earlier. I'm grateful to you because of the impact that you've had on Taylor and Xavier, because the experience that they've had through Echoing Green and to go to Ghana and to come back transformed. Talk about this amazing organization and what led you there. What does Echoing Green do, and why is it so special?
Thank you for asking me that, and I hope some of you who have not heard of our work that you'll look us up on our website, echoinggreen.org. If you're starting a new organization and are looking for seed funding, please consider applying to us, and Xavier and Taylor can talk to you more about what we offer as well. So almost 40 years ago, Echoing Green was founded by the senior leadership of a very prominent private equity firm called General Atlantic. Don't think they have offices here in Texas, but they've got many offices around the world. And they are known as one of the leading growth equity funders in the world, but looking at for-profit companies. But what they are so good at, Dr. Booker Drew, is identifying talent and then backing that talent to the hilt. And I think one of their amazing insights was that why couldn't you apply that same approach to talent? It's incredible. You know it when you see it. Just give them some support, wrap your arms around them, and get out of their way and let them do what they know how to do. And so they applied that for-profit entrepreneurial methodology of investing into the social sector, recognizing if you could find these amazing folks, give them a little bit of support, take the risk, be the risk capital, imagine the change you could unleash. Imagine what it would look like to be a force multiplier. And most people in this room or, even around the world don't know who Echoing Green is, but they know one of our, almost 1,000 fellows who have been working around the world. So obviously, Xavier and Taylor, these brilliant young men who are transforming with all of you this neighborhood and this city and this country. But, back in the day, I'm an OG Echoing Green fellow, but, I came of age when, Van Jones was graduating from law school and went on with his Echoing Green fellowship to start the country's first hotline to report police abuse in Oakland. Most people know Van from Ella Baker Center for Human Rights or the work he does as a TV pundit, but he got his start through Echoing Green, or a young corporate lawyer who wanted to leave that life and work with young people in Chicago, namely Michelle Obama, who went on to start the Chicago office of Public Allies. But many of the organizations that you all know that have grown in size and scale and impact got their start through Echoing Green. Teach for America, City Year, globally, the One Acre Fund, which is the world's largest network of smallholder farmers. So it's an extraordinary network of leaders who are focused on transforming transformational change, and who are bringing all of their gifts and brilliance and expertise to bear to make their communities better. And it's not just about leadership, it's about transformational leadership. And that's what has kept me engaged all these years. I mean, back in the day, I was in medical school in Boston, and I was at Harvard Medical School, and the zip code says that we are located in Brookline, Massachusetts, a very Tony, upscale zip code. But we were like in the hood. We were in Mission Hill, where New Edition came from, and I literally would walk across the street to the store there to get snacks and stuff. And I was like, it's so interesting. It was the real town and gown phenomena. And back in the 80s, black babies were dying at 3 times the rate of white babies, even in the shadow of the world's best medical facilities. And Boston had our country's highest black infant mortality rate, third only behind Washington, D.C., where I live now in Seattle, Washington. And so there are these questions that become, again, your obsessions. Why? Why in this city of plenty and opportunity and healthcare would so many black babies not even live to see their first year of life? So that was the question that was posed, and Echoing Green was one of the first organizations that backed me and my co-founder, Dr. Nancy Oriel, an extraordinary African-American woman, my mentor, who became Dean of Students at Harvard Medical School. That's been our lifelong journey to try to disentangle that and figure it out.
So 3 to 5 years from now, which 5 years puts us hopefully in a different environment, maybe sooner, but what does it look like for Echoing Green? If you think about the trajectory you're on now, what's the kind of change that you hope will happen through that organization during the season that we're in and maybe even well beyond?
That is such a good question. And I will say that when I started this work, I was fairly naive. It was sort of like that movie, If You Build It, They Will Come, whatever that baseball movie was. And I used to think, if we build it every year, you all know how extraordinary Taylor and Xavier are, but our application process is a beast. I mean, it is draconian. It is so hard. We get 4,500 applications from 160 countries around the world. We fund less than 2%, 1.5% of those who apply to us. So you really have to run the gauntlet. There are amazing people, so many of you, people doing amazing work, but we are very focused on a particular type of, we believe, transformational, generational leader. And we thought, we've got the track record. We've shown all these amazing folks who are getting awards. They're MacArthur Genius Awards. They're on 60 Minutes. They're doing these things. And we thought that would be enough. Once we highlighted them, raised them up, funding would follow, change would follow, and obviously not quite that easy. And that's when you start to think about the role of structural inequities, how these systems that we talked a lot about in the other room really sort of weigh and oppress the trajectory of change. So I think Echoing Green had to take a really hard look at itself a number of years ago and figure out, then what was our systems change approach? And I say there were a couple of things. One was the power of narrative change, and that we had to get into that game as opposed to just selecting these leaders, letting them go out and do amazing work. So I think I saw Dr. Edwards. Here's Tanel. Hi, Dr. Edwards. So a managing partner at the Bridge Band Group. You're a Houston girl, though. Is that okay that our Houston girl is in the mix? Tanyelle Edwards works at Bridge Band, the leading nonprofit consulting firm in our sector, and she's done remarkable work on racial healing and reparations. And Bridge Band, when Bridge Band speaks, our sector listens. And it was interesting, for about 10 years, we would do a study every year of the thousands of applications we would get from around the world. And every year we would show that there was a $20 million gap between our black applicants and white applicants, even though they were equally as qualified and as amazing. And we would put out this report every year. Nothing much happened. But then we reached out to our friends at Bridge Band, and they're just extraordinary researchers, communicators, and they have the ear of almost everyone in the sector. And we work with them to crunch our longitudinal data. We do have the largest longitudinal data set of early stage social enterprises in the world. And we basically say, take that and turn that into a narrative. And they were able to show that our black applicants, our black fellows, were raising 24% less than our white fellows. They were all fellows. They had all run the gauntlet. They were all amazing. But what was even worse, they were raising 76% less net restricted assets. So unrestricted assets. So the money that you use to dream, to plan, to grow, 76% less in terms of that revenue. And from our vantage point and working with our friends at Bridgeman, recognizing that that was a proxy for trust or lack thereof. So that was our first stance of planting the flag of saying, okay, we do great work. We're trying to build out, and Jeff Canada said this, the leadership infrastructure of the social change sector. But it's not enough to do it. You got to be about it. So we had to write the report, work with our friends in Bridgeman to talk all about it. We made a short documentary, The Power of Social Innovation, featuring our Black innovators. We've gone on the conference circuit to talk about it, and we think we've had some impact with our friends at Bridgeman of changing how donors think about funding leaders of color, BIPOC leaders, Global South leaders, but there's more to come. And being in spaces like this, where if you know folks who are just starting out and they want to risk fund or someone who will be their ride or die, we are with you, the good, the bad, the ugly. Send them our way, and we're just trying to be a good ecosystem partner so we can be the rising tide that helps lift your boat. And if we do that well, we will firmly be planted in the work of systems change as a partner to the amazing work that you all are doing.
So you and I talked earlier about one of the systems that's challenging, and it's our conversation topic about funding the revolution. So let's talk about philanthropy and the system of philanthropy. How does it need to change? We both know it does. And what does it really look like to fund the revolution? What does philanthropy need to do? But also, what can we do as individuals to make that happen?
Oh, so many. And in some ways, I think you can talk more eloquently about this than I, Dr. Booker Drew Given. I'm very excited. I'm going to go order your books when I get back to my hotel.
And I didn't even pay her to do that.
Nope. I'm your biggest fan. I'm a new biggest fan. But you have thought about, I think, building alternatives to traditional philanthropy, because philanthropy is just a reflection of these hegemonic systems that do not allow for liberation. I mean, again, I remember, in school when I was like, wow, the Gramsci term, hegemony, you're like, they don't even have to bring out the weapons and the dogs and the cops to keep us down. Like, they embed it in cultural systems, and they keep us in these systems, and they don't have to lift a finger to do it, right?
Yes,
and I was
absolutely.
like, well, that's deep. It's brilliant. It's diabolical, but it's super deep. And philanthropy is part and parcel of that problem. So I think there's inside work to do and outside work. And, going back to the Bridgeman study, what I appreciate about it, they're very good number crunchers, but it's also, so now what? What do we do? And so we raised up sort of 4 practices where we asked funders to look in the mirror and start to think about how they could do things differently. And one was, like you go to a conference and you're like, wait, there's a whole nother conference that I knew nothing about. You're like, there's a meeting with a meeting and they're talking to funders and I wasn't invited. So there's something about the lack of social capital, which is your expertise. We don't ever get into those rooms. So we don't, it's the relational capital that we're lacking. And how do you start to build that? So that was one barrier. Another one was like, explicit and implicit interpersonal bias. It's real. We've got to identify it, right? I've been in rooms and have felt like, didn't I just say that? And didn't I say that right? And right, aren't I doing a little bit better that other group that you've always funded, right? And you can't address it in real time, but there's work that funders need to do, and how do you help them do it, understand it, and then do it? A third thing is, and again, everybody's been talking about this, the revolution is a long-term proposition. We need sustainable funding. These project-based grants, these one-off grants, it's a disaster, right? And the push to multi-year funding, we've got to do it. We've got to push our funders to do it. And I will say, it did start to loosen up in COVID a little bit, where funders were like, OMG, we can't just write this grant. We just got to we got to trust our folks, and we got to give them multi-year support, but we need to keep pushing them. And then the last thing is sort of the way that we have done measurement and evaluation is a yoke around our neck. I mean, you all are doing the deepest, most complex longitudinal work that is out there. There is no widget that or KPI that you can deliver in the short term that's going to prove that. It's outrageous. So we're a qualitative, narrative, community-based solutions for measurement and evaluation, and we've got to push these funders to start thinking about how feedback loops need to drive the evaluation process. But we have a lot of work to do. And I will say, like, again, I'm sitting there looking at Dr. Edwards from Bridgeband. You guys are these donor whisperers. We got to find these intermediaries. And sometimes I'm part of that as well. And we've got to start the whisper campaign that we can't keep doing it this way. It's just not enough. But then we need outside in folks. I mean, the work you've done, and please, I want to learn more about your giving circles. How are you thinking about DAFs, which is my latest fascination? I'm like, all that money is sitting there. Why is it not going to communities? Explain it to us, please. It just drives me nuts. So I think inside-outside strategy, but I love that you said that it is not an evolution. It really does need to be a revolution. You're on point on that one, Dr. Booker-Drew, for sure.
We were talking about, for those of you who don't know what a DAF is, it's a donor advised fund. And so often many of us, and I was telling Cheryl this, many of us put our money in banks that make no money. Donor advised funds make money, which is why wealthy people do them. And then they are told by the IRS to give a percentage of that money. So they don't give out all of their money, and that money continues to make money. So one of the things I was sharing with her is I'm intrigued with the ideal of what does it mean to help people start their own donor-advised funds so that we grow wealth and we're able to then change our community's trajectory. And so there's some power behind thinking about collective wealth, which leads me to our next question about this conference is called Power Proximity. Why is it, and I think we know it, probably even more here than here, but why is it so important to fund the revolution, to think about relationships and being in community?
Yeah, I think that's right. And I've so many gems, and I carry my notebook around because I've been learning from everyone all day, and I wrote down all these wonderful sound bites and perspectives, and I'm going to go back and share them with my colleagues. I'm really excited about it. And you all have talked a lot about proximity, but I think we also have to talk about power. I'm sorry, it is about power, how we build it, how we sustain it, and how we leverage it. And I think we are at a moment where the strategies that we have used in the past, electoral strategies to build power, obviously we've always used wealth and ownership to drive power. I am increasingly convinced that the rate of change is so rapid, the type of change, this moment that we're in is so complex that the change is outstripping our ability to meet the moment. And I think we've got to start to think about what new forms of power look like. And, things like governance changes, like Echoing Green, and we've always done this, and it's one of the reasons I love this organization. Our board never selects our fellows. Our donors don't select our fellows select our fellows. It is by us, for us, of us, right? And when we give out follow-on funding grants, we now have a blended capital fund where we're not only offering grants, but equity and debt. We are overpopulated on that investment committee with Echoing Green Fellows, right? It is for us, by us. We are controlling the terms of our liberation and figuring out new governance structures, participatory grant making, community control over DAFs, right? New governance structures that take it out of the hands of those intermediaries at the DAFs who don't want the money to go out. Right. They want the pile to sit there so their fees grow. We got to think radically differently about it because, again, I'll go back to Gramsci and hegemony. This is a really special moment, you all, and I'm scared in this moment. And he said, the old world is dying, but the new world has yet to be born. We are in a time of monsters. This is an intermediary stage where if we don't figure it out, the future is going to figure it out for us, whether it be AI, sort of the difficulty figuring out how to live peacefully in a multiracial democracy. This is a moment, and I'm looking to each and every one of you in this room individually and collectively. And as Jeff Canada said, this is not 9 to 5. This has got to be our life's work. It has to be. It has to be for these beautiful children that you're working for so hard every day. We've got to be... I think of, Xavier and Taylor and all social innovators. You're artists, right? There's a level of creativity and artistry. Artists see and express what the rest of us don't allow ourselves to be vulnerable enough to see. And this level of imagination and creativity, to me, is at the heart and soul of what social innovation is all about. And it's beautiful, it's spiritual. We talked a lot about that. It is tapping in to our deepest imaginations. And we've got to create that space for folks like Taylor and Xavier and all of you who are doing this work. And if we do that, I'm completely convinced that we are going to build and rebuild something so much better and so much sweeter and more profound. But it's going to take all of us all in for years to come. But I think it's worth the fight. I think it's worth the fight.
But you're expressing optimism, even in the midst of all of this chaos and ambiguity. What gives you hope about social change and social entrepreneurship in this current environment? What are the things that make you go, I think we've got it, we're on to something?
Yeah, I think, and again, I'm just so happy that I met you, and I'm so happy I'm going with you tonight to see this documentary, and maybe we can hook up for barbecue afterwards, Xavier. That brisket was all that. I was like, it was phenomenal. It was just so good.
You were saying that. I was like,
it's so good. It was so good. But I will say that I live in my head a little bit too much. I'm more head than heart a lot of times because the reality of it is a little too painful for me, right? I grew up in Baltimore. My mom grew up on the east side. My dad grew up on the west side. And, I saw all this potential that was never realized just because of the color of your skin or what zip code you're in. And it was just devastating to me. So again, I think for my own safety and comfort and psychic well-being, I live up here. But again, I was a scientist in college and through med school. And there's this wonderful evolutionary biologist, Elizabeth Sahtouris, who talks about the transformation of a caterpillar to a butterfly. And the science is fascinating, but I think it tracks to what happens in real life. Like when the caterpillar is about to transition, there are these foreign objects called imaginal discs. And one pops up, and then the caterpillar's immune system sees it as a foreign body, and it destroys it. But then exponentially, 2 will show up, then 4, then 16, then 32. And over time, the immune system, the system, is not strong enough to suppress this new being, this new way of evolving. And out of that change comes the caterpillar, comes this beautiful new thing, right? And I feel like when I'm in audiences like this, I'm like, demography is destiny. There are more of us than there are of them. We're going to get there. We're totally going to get there. It's a numbers game. It's a heart game. So I'm really optimistic because I can't not be being in rooms like this. We do have it. But please support one another because not all of us are going to make it to the other side, right? I can't tell you how many folks I've lost along the way. Again, Jeffrey Canada talked about this. Dying young of heart attacks, not making it. Like, we've got to care for ourselves. We've got to care for one another. Rest is resistance, all that. Like, we got to make that real. But I know we'll get there. I just don't know when.
And you mentioned rest. One of the things we talked about a lot, y'all. But how do you take care of yourself in the midst of this? What are some lessons that we can learn from your journey about caring for self as you are fighting in this struggle? And we talked about we don't want to be on the struggle bus.
I love that. Struggle bus.
I was like, I don't do the struggle bus anymore. But what does it really look like for us to care for ourselves? Because we say rest, and I think it's so loosely, stated. But what does that mean for you?
Yeah, and I am very fortunate and very privileged. I mean, again, I have the means. Again, I've been in the nonprofit sector my whole career, but made a good living. I can afford my mortgage. I can go on vacations. Like, be down at the Essence Music Festival in a couple weeks. I'm super excited, right? So I go places that give me life and that nourish me. We talked about this. I watch a lot of Ratchet TV, and I do not feel guilty about it. I do not feel guilty about it.
We talked about our shows, and I gave us some new ones. I was like, 90 Day Fiancé is the one.
No, I know. I'm a Love is Blind girl, but and a Real Housewives of Atlanta, but I'm the switch. I'm going to switch. I need new material. And I don't feel guilty about it. I love it. I just love it. it. And again, my grandmother in East Baltimore would sit there smoking her Camel cigarette. So I grew up watching soap operas, Young and the Restless, All My Children, the whole shebang, Another World. So I know how to let go and enjoy myself. But I just have to say, this work is hard. One of my favorite books about building organizations is written by a venture capitalist called Ben Horowitz, and it's called The Hard Thing About Hard Things. And I have loved this book. Number one, Ben Horowitz, married to an African-American woman, is just obsessed with hip-hop, and I embarrassed myself with the DOC. I am so sorry, sir. I lost my mind. A legend. This is the music, the soundtrack of my life.
She did it classy, though.
I tried, but the pictures look ridiculous. I'm like cheesing, and my colleagues are laughing at me. But it just meant so much to me to be in the presence of such an icon. But I find joy and pleasure whether it's old school hip hop, whether it's hanging out with friends, and the joy I get working with leaders like Taylor and Xavier. I can't tell you, most days, and again, going back to this book, and Ben Horowitz would start every chapter with a quote from a well-known rapper, right, to set up how he was going to talk about the work that you all do. And I will summarize it and say, this work is really hard, and sometimes you're a peacetime CEO, sometimes you are a wartime CEO. We're in wartime now, and it's one of those days, and I apologize if there are any kids. It's the framework of the book is, today is going to be shitty. Tomorrow is going to be shitty. Next month is going to be shitty. Even next year could be shitty. But you get up and you come back every single day because it's about more than you, and you find the thing that you love most about it, and you just keep walking through it. And in some ways it releases you when you recognize it's not about me, and maybe I'm not the person to lead in this moment, and that's okay. And right, if I need to hand off the baton, it's okay. But you got to walk through it. You've got to be present. And I just, even on my hardest day, I just could never imagine doing anything else. What a gift to work with these leaders, to learn. And part of it is I learn something every single day from young people, next gen folks like Taylor and Xavier, and so many of you I've talked to today. It's a learning journey. How lucky are we to do that? It's amazing, right?
It's a gift.
It's a gift. Yeah, it's a gift.
The name of the book again was
The Hard Thing About Hard Things. And I just thought I try to look at it every couple of quarters, because it's hard business advice, HR. How do you fire somebody? How do you think about talent retention, along with sort of the life lessons of trying to sustain these organizations, which is super hard to do.
My last question is about, you talk about young people. And we talked a little bit about mentorship and the power of people in our lives. Sometimes they don't always show up the way that we want them to. What is the role of mentorship in this revolution? And why is it important? Even for us, as you talked about, X and Taylor, they think we're mentoring them, but quite often they're giving so much to us.
Yes.
I mean, you do. I learned from so many of you all in this room, and you think that I'm doing something for you, but you all pour into me. What is the power of mentorship in this struggle? And really thinking about, why do we need to invest in each other?
That's so I can't even say it any better than you, Dr. Booker Drew. I mean, I remember my mentor, Dr. Nancy Oriel, in the first couple years we worked together. I couldn't bring myself to call her Nancy. I would say, Dr. Oriel. And one day, she said, I'm just going to have to slap you if you do not start calling me Nancy. My name is Nancy. But I was so in awe, and I so revered her, which I still do. And she did say that to me. She said, Cheryl, you don't seem to realize that I'm learning as much from you as you are from me. And I still don't quite believe her, but I'm trying to believe her. But there's something about this bi-directional learning, this give and take. And I think what happens is, they use the word, we get jaded as we get older. I sort of feel like oppression, it's like, how you get that dust on your windowsill? It's like that sediment that builds up. The oppression, it builds up on us. And, we try to brush it off, and we try to see clearly and see through it, but it's super powerful. And the older I get, the more weighed down I get. It's just hard. And we talked about that, right? It's hard. It is. So looking at their energy, their belief, their optimism, I think that's probably why I'm still in the game, because I feed off that energy when sometimes I'm like, we just can't beat it. It's too strong. The power is too overwhelming. But it's not when I see next-gen leaders. So in some ways, that's the fuel. That's the blessing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is, because we had talked about earlier, young people sometimes think that we're not interested. Yeah. And that's not it at all. We're tired.
We're tired.
We're tired. And so we want to make sure that they are supported and cared for, but know that we are interested in your success. Just means that we've been fighting a long time and we're tired.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we want you all to win.
Yes, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
We want you all to win. I love that.
Absolutely. So, come on up. Any questions? Are we doing Q&A with the audience? Okay, we got to keep it going. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
We're going to hang out tonight.
We are.
And thank you all for being here.
So wonderful. You guys are doing amazing work.